you should now have a good foundation for our definition of nonverbal, the basic operation, and the general concepts surrounding nonverbal, that it's very vague and ambiguous. It's very difficult to interpret. There are a lot of different types of nonverbal communication. And when I mentioned previously the 93% is nonverbal, here's the pie chart distribution. It includes 55% over here in the green section of the pie chart. Body movements, facial expressions, arm movements, hand gestures, even eye contact, etc. That's part of nonverbal. There's also a vocal component. In the blue, 38%, that's how you use your voice, your tone, your voice modulation, pauses, laughter. It's anything that's vocal without the words. We actually call that paralanguage, which we'll dive into in this video. And then 7% is the words that you use. So here's a list of all the different nonverbal channels and categories. So the first video, I'm dividing it up into 2 videos because there's so many different channels. And this is why you can't possibly control all of these channels on a conscious level when sending messages. So a lot of these are unconscious or subconscious. You're not aware that you're using them. So we're going to divide it up into 2 videos, and the additional categories over here in the green box that are not in most textbooks are also included in video 2. So let's dive into some of these categories. Kinesics. I think actually all these categories in nonverbal you actually know, but you just don't know the language that's associated with it, and you don't know some of the details. You probably have the good general understanding, so hopefully you will be more enlightened with your vocabulary and with a little bit more details for these different types of nonverbal. Always include vocabulary in your work. In any class, include vocabulary that you're learning from any given chapter in any assignment or activity that you do, a paper, anything. Always include vocabulary. That's one of my study tips that I throw out randomly when I think of them. So kinesics is all about what most people would say is body language, but we talked about that in the last video. Really no such thing as body language, but it does include posture, gestures, and movements. This is a preview slide, and then I have details on the following slides. That's how I have organized all of our nonverbal PowerPoints. So posture communicates whether you're sitting up straight, standing up straight, sitting down. You would not want to sit like Raj here in this bottom video or image. You would not want to sit with your feet up on the desk in a job interview when they say have a seat and get comfortable. It says something. It says the wrong thing if you're running a job, right? So your posture does indicate a lot. Even confidence. That's why standing up while you give a speech is really important. Act confident even if you don't feel like it. It says something. It communicates a message. Gestures, use arms or hands. There's 4 different types, so you can study these. All of them I have details on the subsequent slides, but there are the 4 different types of gestures. Emblems and illustrators, regulators and adapters. Movement, how we use our body to position ourselves. In the left, we can use it in a more, this is a flirtatious moment here, in case you were unsure, in the upper left-hand corner. Obviously, you can tell that there's some conflict in this bottom image on the left. You can tell by the crossing of the arms and their body position turning away from each other. You can look at the people on the elevator here on this image to see what they're saying. Right? So how you move your body, how you position it, does make a difference. You're going to learn more about eye contact. It involves status. It involves, you can invade somebody's space. Haven't you ever felt that? You felt like you were being stared down right? That makes you feel uncomfortable. They're invading your space visually with your eyes. When you're giving a speech and you're not looking at your audience, you're looking down at your notes too much, you look very timid, you look uncertain, you look like maybe you're deceitful. And so we actually use a lot eye contact for a lot of reasons, and it can be very powerful. If you happen to be on a date and you're wondering if it's going well, you can look at some of the body movements. You can look at their eyes. One thing that you should know is that when you're interested in something or someone, your pupils dilate. Now, it doesn't guarantee if you're on a first date and you're thinking, oh, is this going well? And you look at the eyes and they're dilated, they may just like the conversation. That doesn't necessarily mean they like you, but it is a good sign. So there are a lot of things we can use to our advantage, and that is one thing you can look at. Paralanguage, that's the vocal part of nonverbal. It's the tone, right? Your high-pitched voice or low-pitched voice. Mickey Mouse has a high-pitched voice. DJs, broadcasters have low-pitched low-pitch voices, right? So how fast or how slow? Laughter. Sarcasm is all nonverbal. It is all in the tone of voice. Making emphasis on punctuation, for example, that is done vocally. When you're speaking, the exclamation points or the question marks are done vocally. So this is called paralanguage, and it is how we use our voice. Facial expressions are somewhat universal. There is some universality to these basic emotions that we have listed here. It's never a guarantee, but they tend to be fairly recognizable. Physical attractiveness is also part of nonverbal. There's some fascinating studies on individuals who are considered physically attractive, and there is some science behind this where they take face measurements to measure symmetry, and apparently Brad Pitt is, awesome as far as physical attractiveness goes. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and we looked at that in perception, but there is a little bit of objectivity here with physical attractiveness, and these are all the different factors, and quite honestly, it does take place in job interviews, right? How attractive you are, how you come across, in some jobs more than others. So that gives you the first set of different types of nonverbal. Well, I apologize for the dog, but if we were in the classroom, sometimes the geese from the pond come knocking on our windows, or we've had pressure washing the windows too. So noise interferes with the communication process. So let's move on to video number 2 and go over the rest of the different types of nonverbal.